welcome to the Talking Timelines podcast. We are four women with 4 points of view and four accents with one common goal: to share insights and information about what's going on in the world from a higher consciousness perspective. No BS, no PC, just lots of ideas that you won't hear on mainstream media. We chat, we laugh, and most of all, we shed and share light. Join us each week as we talk timelines.
Hello everyone, welcome to Talking Timelines episode 15, and today we're going to be talking about Ascension. There's a big shift happening on the planet at the moment, and if you're not aware of it, sit down, get yourself a cup of coffee and listen up to what we've got to share with you today, because there's going to be some interesting things shared. Okay, so I'm going to throw this straight over to Laura because we've just been chatting about it. So if someone asked you what is Ascension, Laura, what would you say?
Oh, nothing like right out of the gate going for the going for the big one to need. To me, Ascension is, well, I'll speak to it from a collective, whereas humanity's the level of consciousness is expanding. So there's multiple, I'm going to keep saying my understanding is that there's multiple layers to this. And one of them is that a lot of our attributes that have been tampered with or hijacked, whatever you want to call it, are coming online, such as, I think, we have five senses that we're aware of in the 3D, and yet we're supposedly have something like over 100. I don't know if the number is correct, but many, many, many more senses. Telepathy, all these other traits that humanity had at one point that have kind of been suppressed are coming back online. So it's basically a higher level of humanity, right? So there's the collective that's ascending. There's Earth, which my understanding is she's already ascended to a higher, and we can kind of see things happening. Then there's also the ascension on the individual levels, and that's where people will raise a level of their consciousness and expand depending on what trauma they've released, what karma they've released, things from their past lives. There's a lot of energetic things that are keeping us from not ascending, their lifestyle practices and so forth. So there's an awareness to it, and then there's also, I think, the practical side of the work that needs to be done in order to get to that next level. So it's happening, but to what speed and to what degree is this happening? Is this higher frequency living? So, I mean, that's kind of my understanding in a nutshell.
Okay, great. Lisa, what do you think?
I never really understood it until things started to change within me. And then when I look back, I remember when I was 28 years old, and I'll be 55. I know we're not talking age, but 55 on May 25th. And I remember when I was 28 and I needed to come up with a solution for something. And it was just almost like asking it as given. I started to see solutions. And then that was around the same year that my mom died. And then for the next decade, it was kind of a blur. But I can say the last 5 years, things have really started to accelerate. So I'll just, share about like what happened with me. I've always worked hard with my career. We've done really well financially. And then in 2015, it kind of all like 10 years ago already, doesn't seem like that long. It was where we walked away from a company that was paying us about $33,000 US a week. And then that was just due to that dispute. We also had probably about $1.2 million in our e-wallet that they scooped out as well. So we were kind of left like, holy shit, you know? Yeah. And so we lost that passive income plus, and then my partner at the time, business partner, he said he just was beating himself up because he should have pulled it out sooner, right? Didn't know that was going to happen, hindsight. But anyways, that sent us both in a different trajectory. And I started to work with another company, and then things were going good, but I would see conflicts within some of the groups or whatever. And it was just like, I don't need to be part of this. I don't want to be part of this. Don't drag me into all this. I was just always wanting to be in a neutral position. And then I feel like in about 2018, 2019, went through my divorce as well. Even though him and I are like the best of friends, I felt like a grieving process probably for a couple years. And then in 2020, had a big shift in awakening. And then I realized and which was a good thing, I went through death of the ego. And so I didn't take things personally. I didn't get my feelings hurt if someone didn't like, what I did or a decision I made. I just don't have, it's neither here nor there. That was the beautiful gift, is the death of the ego. Because people think that it's all about being macho and all that. It's nothing to do with that. It's about how you respond to emotions largely and react to emotions. And then it felt like there was a dark night of the soul type thing happened, because I had shared with Janine, Laura, at some point, that I was lying on my chaise lounge, and I may have been doing a mushroom journey at the time, or maybe it was just after that. And I had said, source, higher self, I want to be the best version of Lisa right here and now. And so let's get that process going. And it's like, holy shit, I don't know if I would have done that again, knowing what was going to happen, because whatever I seemed to touch, because everything in my life was really starting to come together. There was friends that my friend circle became smaller. The other ones that were more maybe convenient, those went away. But my financial situation, no matter what I was, getting involved in or initiating, started to just didn't go anywhere, or did, and then something would go wrong. And a lot of those were costly, like money. Again, money going away and never to be, found again. And even right now, I'm still just tailing off. It's just over 2.5 years when a broker took about almost 200,000 from us. But that's actually in a law firm account right now. That's going to be given to us probably within the next 3-4 weeks. So, and then it goes to trial next year for whatever's going to happen there, because this guy actually took our money and ghosted us. Right. So things like that were happening. And then but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to not have any expectation when it comes to my business or my personal life or relationships. I am just going to let all the good in. And every night I am so thankful and grateful for what happened in my day. What I didn't like happening in my day, I would go back and I would want to replay it the way I wanted it to look like. And then any emotional hurt or whatever happened with, something that may have happened during the day, I would just let go. So I learned that there's something called stop, cancel, clear, reset. And whenever you get a negative thought or something that bad happens in your day, you can literally design it. And even trauma from past, like you can go back 40 years if you want. And if you play it out a different way in your mind, that will catch up to you to present day. And so your life can literally change just like that. But it's all here. And so that is what Ascension looks like to me, is all of the material things, all of the things that used to motivate me with, like going to travel and this and that, all that. I think it's great that people want to experience it, and I've done a lot of that in the past. And whether I have done it or not, I'm at a point where I'm just going with the flow. My intention is absorbing as much happiness and joy as I can throughout my day, whatever that looks like. And I don't define what that looks like, because I could be thinking too small. So I let that, flood of joy come in, because I want to experience new levels of joy. And so this is to what Ascension has meant to me. And I know that, as Abraham Esther Hicks has said, we never get it done. And so I'm looking forward to the journey and not waiting for anything on the external world or the political front or the news to, deliver us good news. So I know that good is on its way, big time, more than what we can even imagine. So I'm not going to try to determine what that looks like in my mind, because again, I could be thinking too small. So just kind of riding the wave.
Okay, brilliant. Well, a lot of people would have gone into when, you know, you've been through a lot and you come out the other side smiling and not letting it drag you down. So hats off to you for that. My experience of Ascension is that when I found out about this, probably coming up 25 years ago, not far off now, is that it's to do with planetary alignments, and every 26,000 years or so the planets are in alignment that allow us to do a massive quantum leap in consciousness in the physical reality. And it's happening not just to Earth, it's happening to the whole universe, the multiverse, to creation. People, you know, talk about it's happening on Earth, and then others going, it's our universe. But there's my personal experience was 7 universes inside a multiverse, and then 7 multiverses, and that was the spiral, the 49 universes. And then when you move through and beyond them, you're into 50. And if you think about it, there are 49 stars on the American flag, aren't there? 49 stars on it, which is interesting. I know it's to do with the states, but so you've got all these different levels of consciousness to work through, and the planets come into alignment and download our karmic memories into us so that we can heal them to raise our own frequency. So it's like turning up the dial on a radio station to a higher frequency. So you're going from 9 FM to 25 FM to 50 FM to 75 FM. And that frequency is a higher frequency. And that comes from purer consciousness. And what that means is your mind, body, and spirit. So you're eating healthier, getting the trauma out of your body, getting the metal toxins out of the body, getting the limiting beliefs out of your body, getting judgment, fear, all of these things that lower your frequency out of your mind, body, and spirit, and doing what you do, Lisa, living in that joy and setting your intention. That's all you're bringing into your life. I've been recently saying in the morning that I ask my higher consciousness to guide my thoughts, words, and deeds. And I do not consent to anything less than love and pure bliss coming into my energy field every day now. And I've really noticed a difference with it. So Ascension, to me, people think we're going up. It's not about going up. It's about changing the frequency of where we are. And it's all heart-centered. And that's important because your heart is the epicenter of all of it. And this is why people talk about it's all about love. It's not quite all about love, because love is a certain frequency, heart frequency. The Christ consciousness is the higher heart frequency, which is unconditional love, the golden ray of light. You know, that's where heart gold comes from. But you can go higher than that. And you can go to the source, which is the white, or you can go through the source in the one portal that I share with people into the void, which is an even higher frequency. And that's where we all came from. Everything came from the void. That's the divine mother womb, as people refer to it. So to me, Ascension is just about self-refinement. If I had to put it in a couple of words, it's like purifying yourself, what you're doing, saying, thinking. Everything is creating your future. Everything is creating the people that come into your life. You are the software in the machine of this reality experience, this simulation that we live in. And that's why there's so much distraction out there at the moment. More and more people on social media worried about getting likes, and instead of taking care of themselves. And there's a lot of negative stuff on social media, as we've discussed in our previous podcast, that is holding people back. So it's really important that people understand that when you go onto a screen, any screen, you're going into multiple dimensional realms of consciousness. For instance, if you open up a screen on your computer to go and see what's going on in the war in Europe, you're allowing that energy into your day. You're allowing that war energy and all that grief and all of that fear into your consciousness after 3 seconds. That's all it takes. So there needs to be more awareness about that. We need to, like I'm saying, setting the intention that we only want love and peace and joy and bliss and all the lovely things to come into our consciousness. There are going to be bad days. That's part of the journey. But when you've got that ability to tap into that higher frequency, you get over the bad days much quicker. You don't take it personally. You realize this is being done for me, not to me. So you get out of victim mode. So that's how I see Ascension. And the next couple of years are really, really important as well. There's a lot of talk about that going on now. And from what I've heard, what I've read, what I've experienced through meditation, if people don't get on this higher timeline now, in the next couple of years, this is going to be their soul's last opportunity to do it, because they'll be going into the lower, they'll be staying on the lower frequency one, and the good one's going to get better and better and better, like you said, Lisa. But that lower frequency is going to get worse and worse and worse. People are going to be looking at more AI coming in, more job losses. People are talking about governments, giving handouts so they won't need to work. I don't trust any of it, because once the government are paying your weekly income every week, they've got complete control of you. It's like, right, there's a new vaccine coming out. If you don't take it, you're not getting your money this week. People need to wise up to that, because that lower timeline is a very dark future. So it's not about fear mongering, but it is time to wake up, and it is time to do some work. And it's not just about healing our stuff, because we've got all our ancestors' baggage that we need to clear from our systems as well. So there's a lot involved in it, and it can be costly. I've spent the best part of $500,000 getting to where I am. But I've done a lot of work, and I've dedicated the last 23 years to it. And I've traveled around the world to certain grids and, gates around the world to release certain energies and things like that. Like Susan, who's not here today, we went to Belize and cleared covers that were over the pyramids in Belize and stuff like that, energetically, through meditation, when we were there 8 years ago. So there's a lot of work to be done, and it can be costly, but there are free things that we can do as well. And I'll share some more. I'm going to stop talking now. Back to Laura. Laura, if you were going to say to somebody, well, if you do this, this is going to help you ascend, and it's free. So
Well, what I was going to say is that it's my understanding that there's been ascension at different times in history, like you talked about the cycle, and yet this is supposedly the first time we're actually ascending in these physical bodies.
yes,
Which people are, you see ascension symptoms all over the place, and it can range from everything. And there are certain Facebook groups, the Schumann Resonance, where people are like, "Oh, I've been falling down lately." Anyone, like, it's funny. Everyone's attributing everything to ascension symptoms, but the truth is that there are a lot of people will start feeling things in their body that they haven't felt before, as their body is adjusting to these higher frequencies, and so much light is coming onto the planet. So like you were saying, Janine, what I would say to people at Freebie is really tune into your body right now and see what it's asking for, because people's dietary preferences are changing. Things that they used to be able to tolerate, they can't tolerate anymore. Or their sleep. I've noticed that my sleep pattern has changed, and instead of resisting it, I'm actually going with it. And you know what? I'm actually sleeping much better. I'm going to sleep earlier, but I'm also waking up much earlier. Instead of freaking out about, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock and I'm awake. I'm like, wait a minute.
just get up.
Well, I'm not really getting up, but I'm actually doing your meditations, actually, is what I'm doing when I wake up, Janine. But the thing is that then I look at the time and I'm like, wow, I've slept 6.5, 7 hours. Maybe that's all my body needs right now. So that stress of that is gone, and I'm fine throughout the day. So really tuning in and asking your body what it needs, and, the foods you're eating, and how much you're getting outside, and how much exercise. I know that sounds kind of like, oh, of course, that's what anyone wants to do to maintain health, but this is another level. This is really tuning into your body and noticing that the nuances and the changes and the preferences that may have, and just saying, okay, let me experiment, let me try this and see how I feel. So I think that's one of the most important things, is just really being present and tuning in and asking your body what it needs, because it is a lot. And there are certain days you may be exhausted, and for no reason. It's okay. So you take it easy that day.
Yeah. And the other thing is the importance of understanding that there's a lot of toxicity in the water, in the food, in the air, and regular detoxing of the body is really important. And one of the cheaper ways of detoxing, you've got things like zeolite, which is meant to be brilliant and get metal toxins out the body, and the Master Lemonade cleanse is another good cleanse. A 3-day cleanse will get parasites out of the body as well, because with the energies that are coming through, there's extra radiation coming into the, on the planet from more of the 5 signals for cell towers and stuff like that. And if you've got a lot of metal toxins in your body, you only need to put a tiny piece of aluminum foil inside a microwave and see what happens to it when you turn the microwave on. It sparks. That is what's happening inside people's bodies. They're being microwaved. So the metal toxins is a really big deal. Really important to keep, to get those out of your body. One of the freebies that I like to share with people is always sun gazing. An hour after, from sunrise to an hour afterwards, and sunset to an hour before sunset, it's just staring into the sun when it's low in the sky, not when it's high in the sky, when it's low, and setting your intention. Please, burn out any fear, any anxiety, anything you need to let go of, and visualize those rays of the sun coming into your body and cleansing you, like actually flushing these things out of your body, and having that connection. So the light's coming in and it's cleansing you as it's coming through. It's a powerful one, sun gazing. You can do it with stargazing as well. Probably the best time is probably midnight. I've never seen any specific times for stargazing, but 3:20 to 3:40 a.m. in the morning is another important time for meditating, when the veil is at the thinnest as well. So if you are up in the middle of the night, it may be that in a previous life you were an avid meditator and you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, which a lot of the girls in my private Zoom group say to me, I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning all the time. It's like your body is telling you to get up and meditate. So it's just worth hitting that 20-minute meditation time, because it amplifies your meditation at that time. 20 minutes in the middle of the night is probably like, meditating for 2 hours in the day. So it is worth doing. So they're the subtle things that you can do to help. Lisa, what would you advise?
I think one of the things would be, in addition to, of course, like listening to your body, and, it just maybe being easy with yourself. And because I think a lot of people are afraid to change, or I've been doing this for 20 years and I can't do this anymore. Well, maybe you're being shown or kind of given a nudge to try something different that's lighter, that's going to produce you more results, whatever that might be. But I would say one of the big things is whatever triggers you throughout the day, try to eliminate that. Be aware of that. Like it could be, just going on X, or it could be on Facebook or something. And it's just like, if it's something that triggers you even once, where's it coming from? Eliminate it or reduce it, because that's going to make a huge difference with your energy levels, frequency levels too.
Yeah, and another thing I keep hearing people say is about switching off your Wi-Fi when you go to bed, when you're not using it. Don't have it burning in your house when you don't need it on, because it's hitting while we're asleep at night. And I watched a video on Instagram the other day, and some guy was showing how the radiation is going across the United States at twice a day at certain times. It kind of peaks, and it's like a flow of radiation from the towers going across the states, and it's not just hitting us, it's hitting everyone, our children, our animals. So it is important to get those metal toxins out the body. And everywhere on IG now is about parasites, and how parasites are basically the root cause of pretty much most of the diseases on the planet, and it's all been hidden from us. So detoxing the parasites in the system. You get parasites, guys, from dairy products, meat, fish, basically animal products, dairy products. Did anyone see that one about M&M peanuts?
Oh my God.
Did you see it, Laura?
Yes, I did.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Basically,
you can't unsee.
Somebody cut open an M&M, the candies, and inside the little gap in the middle of the peanut were maggots.
Like big, like almost like an inchworm. I mean, it was big.
Yeah, disgusting.
Well, also peanuts have aflatoxin. Peanuts are highly toxic anyway, even if you're not allergic. They have mold. They're just, and if they're in those candy, God knows how long they've been in there. And
exactly, because you don't really see an expiry date on a chocolate bar, and those are sitting from transport to marketplace.
Exactly.
They're going to be going from a warmer to but anyways, with the maggot, I could imagine that it's a lot juicier of a product.
So yeah, your diet is really important. And a few years ago, I went completely wheat-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, coffee-free, vegan for 5 years. And I've said before, it was the most miserable time of my life.
Yeah.
It was just really difficult to do. I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat for 18 years actually. In April, it's been. I don't miss it at all. I have to cook it because I've got a dog, but I always ask for the animal to be blessed. That's feeding my dog, in that respect. But I'm healthy. I work out 4 or 5 times a week, and I'm lucky. I'm not on any meds. I'm 60 years old. I'm a healthy person. But it's only because of the diet over the years and cutting back. And I even, I used to smoke when I was younger. All of that has stopped. But now, if I want to have a cake or a cup of coffee or a glass of wine with dinner, I do, because I'm got to the point where there has to be a little bit of joy there, and
Yes.
things can be a treat. And
Yeah.
I've started to be able to socialize with people again. You get invited to people's houses, and if they don't buy organic food and you're trying to eat 100% organic and vegan, you can't go to these people's houses and say, I'm sorry, I can't eat your food. It's not good enough for me.
Right. And
Exactly.
plus the obsession of it is not healthy either.
No, it's
I
not.
realize that myself. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not going to eat anything here. It's all GMO. And I'm just like, relax. It's
Yeah.
okay. 90%
Yeah.
of my diet is super clean. That
Yeah.
yes, when you go out, you can have it. It's okay. And that's the other thing too, is people get so obsessed with that. Because once I mean, obviously you don't want that to be your daily diet of consuming all this stuff. But I agree with you, Janine, like to have like I love my chocolate, like I love, like there's certain things that of course you have to have joy, because there is, I mean, it's a big part of joy in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
is. It is social.
yeah, it is. I joke about it. I was joking with one of my clients about it the other week. I was like, because Lisa knows Lisa and I try to get together once a week, don't we? So we can have a good old chat. And there is a cheesecake that I like that is not made with dairy, and I buy it, and in my head I go, oh look, calorie-free cheesecake.
Yeah.
And things like that. So I've never been overweight in my life, and I eat. I've always been a healthy eater, 3 or 4 meals a day. I can eat a lot of food, but I don't pile the weight on unless I eat too much bread
Yeah,
and cheese. They're the two things.
I know, the
Yeah.
carbs, the bread, the carbs are but
Yeah.
they're so
Yeah.
good. They're
Yeah,
such
because there's sugar and carbs combination for sure. I did have a friend that she was really plagued ill for 6 months, and you know what? It was from a parasite, and you know where she got it from? She got it from a lettuce.
yeah. I was gonna say that's another place you can get it in the bag, with
Yeah,
the bags, and there's the
yeah,
moisture.
yeah.
Wow.
The moisture, and like that's why, like I like romaine lettuce buying it, but it's always gonna go and get rinsed and cleaned, and then the salad spinner. It takes more
I know.
time rather than buying the pre-bought stuff. But I was at a grocery store once a couple years ago. I remember, and I bought bok choy, and I'm slicing it up, and I'm there. Oh, there's a mushroom in here. And then when I took a closer look, I touched it, and it was just, oh, this is so slimy. I like literally couldn't. I'd had to wash my hands 3 times to get that slime off. It wasn't a mushroom; it was
What
a
was it?
slug.
A slug? I
Oh,
was gonna say.
It was a
God.
slug, and I cut the ass off of it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I gonna do with this thing? Geez, if there was a crow
That's
or a
organic
seagull,
for you. See, there's no
that's
pest in it.
organic.
That's organic. You're gonna get the pests in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
but that's what I
that's
was doing. I was chopping it up so I could put it in the salad spinner and then clean it. And luckily I came across that because gross.
gross. Absolutely gross.
Oh,
So yeah, food's super important, guys. Do your best to get organic. People also can't afford organic, but if you're buying processed food, you're paying for packaging and all that stuff. And see, I look at people's what they've got in their carts when they're shopping. And I think if you got rid of all that processed stuff, you could afford organic food if you cooked.
Because our processed food is costly, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's
Yeah.
one of the important things we can do. And of course, water with good quality salt sprinkled in it to get those electrolytes into the body. Because it's the other mistake, and I was one of the people that did it, you're 8 glasses of water a day, and then you're still dehydrated because you're peeing out all the salt from your body.
Yeah.
So you get dehydrated. And people at home, if you check your heels on your feet, and if your heels on your feet start to crack or get dry, that's because your body's dehydrated. It's a classic sign of dehydration.
Or you live in New York in the winter.
Yeah.
It's so, they crack, it's so dry.
Exactly. I think that if we're just like Laura had said, if you're listening to yourself and you're present with yourself, and Janine, you say your awareness, then I think that we will craft a pretty good lifestyle that suits us and benefits us, and we'll see and feel the difference.
I just wanted to go back to what we were talking about earlier about the whole Ascension thing. So it's really interesting also to see how I don't know how to say this gently, the whole social media love light crowd now is they're using 5D as like the buzzword, that everything, how to have a 5D business, how to do this in 5D. Oh, we're doing this. And people have no idea what they're talking about, but it's just, it's like, I think the intention is in the right place, that it's from, there's more integrity and it's from love and it's from this, but it's another thing I think it's kind of like sort of the distraction from the work that actually really needs to be done. I'm doing this thing, I'm going to be in 5D, I'm thinking really positive, or I'm going to 5D because I'm sitting and I'm, meditating for 5 minutes and I'm going to yoga. It's another example of one of those things where, it's a distraction of just do this and you're good. And it's not that simple.
Yeah.
Have you noticed too that like 5D is like the buzzword everywhere?
Yeah, and people are being guided to Ascension is about moving to 5D. I'm glad you brought that up, Laura, because I've been saying it for years. It's not 5D. You still got reptilian energies in 5D. You still got reptilian energies in there that are materialism, all that stuff. Just because somebody's got 5D consciousness doesn't mean they're a nice person. I'll tell you now, they haven't ascended and turned into this Christ-like being. To get war out, as far as I'm aware, we need to get our consciousness to 9D, and it goes above that. I talk about 15 dimensions in my first book, The Angel, the Witch and the Warrior, but there are infinite levels of consciousness, and we need to get as high as possible. I'm now believing that we need to get to 12D plus to really create the heaven on earth experience. You get to a certain level, like there's certain things, even with me now, I very rarely curse because I can see it as like black spiky energy coming out of my mouth, and I don't like it. So things like that you notice, but you get to a certain level and there's just certain things you would never dream of doing that you may have done before, because it's just wrong and you won't even allow yourself to do it. But the 5D stuff, that's misinformation to keep people stuck in a lower frequency bandwidth, so they're not really doing the work. There's a lot of people out there, saying you don't need to raise your frequency, you just need to be love. It's not as simple as that. Your DNA, your consciousness, your energy field is full of all of these memories of every lifetime, every war, every murder, rape, everything abusive from your ancestral lineage, and every single life that we've had, that you've had. All of these things have got to be switched off and brought back into neutral to get into those higher levels of consciousness. You can't go through those higher doorways with all that baggage. It doesn't matter how love and light you are. You can be love and light till the cows come home.
I was just going to mention what you talked about in previous podcasts about neutrality and just how we're still so much in duality, and even just like examining our own behavior. Like I will find myself, and it's funny because it's almost happening automatic. if I'm making what I think is an observation about someone, but it's really a judgment. There's a very fine line between observing something and judging them. And
Yeah.
I will just very quickly go to compassion. At first, it's a very conscious. Instead of saying, oh, look at this person is this, I'll say, wow, well, you know what? I don't know what this person is going through. I don't know what the life this person has had. So I'm catching myself, and it's happening almost automatic now. So that's also another, I think, big part of this work is getting into neutrality. And it's not an easy thing to do because we're so conditioned to
Yeah.
pick a side about everything.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%, Laura. Yep, I agree with that. And you know what you just said about judgment, and and then even a step, you know, hand in hand with that is when someone judges you, it's like water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
Like it just does not. And that is where I believe a person has true power. Like a person could be judged and they couldn't give a hoot, you know, whether it's from a coworker or it could be a stranger or it could be even a family member. And you know, I've had that recently happened, and it's just like, you know, I'm sorry that that person's feeling that way about stuff, but it's just that's their thing. It's not mine.
Yeah. Well, it's understanding the law of projection, isn't it? And the mirror. You know, if we were taught that in school, you'd think twice about pointing the finger at anyone, because,
Yeah.
you know, that's one of law of projection is one of the most important things people can learn. It's like what you see, we see the world as we are, not as it is.
Yes.
That, you know, that's why when people have had an argument, there's two sides of perception to be taken into consideration. So there's a lot of misinformation out there at the moment, and it really is a minefield of people making a lot of money from their misinformation and stuff like that. And we just need to trust what we feel in our body. That's the other thing when you mentioned earlier about the five senses, and then you've got the sixth sense, and the seventh sense is the feelings. And what you feel in your gut, what your gut feeling is, what you're feeling in your heart is usually correct, and trusting that, trusting in yourself. The other thing that I would say to people at home as well, that's free and is probably in the top three of the most important things to do, is to learn to be in no mind, to be in the moment, in the present. It took me a couple of years to get there through meditating 4 times a day. Basically, I was meditating when I woke up for 20 minutes, when I went to bed for 20 minutes, I was meditating at lunchtime for 20 minutes, and then I did the middle of the night one, which I hated because you know, when I was younger, I was more likely to be coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning than to be getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've always liked being out late at night. I'm a star person and I like the stars. So that's, you know, my time, and it's quiet. I like that. So I'm more of a night person, but I do love the sunshine as well. But learning to be in no mind when you're present with everything, it's life changing. Absolutely life changing. Like you said, Lisa, everything's just water off a duck's back. When you
Yeah.
get to that state of consciousness, you don't take it on board. It's like your aura
Yeah.
is so strong that nothing can get in to you.
No one wants to mess with you.
You might get the odd one, sometimes the odd person who has got a bit of darkness in them wants to poke the bear.
Yes. Yeah. Okay,
You
let's have some fun here.
yeah, you do, you cope with it better. So yeah, meditation, very, very important and free. And when you're in your meditation, if you can do sun gazing, stargazing, meditation, and be doing that every day, you're going to be in a good space. You're going to, you know, be clearing your stuff and raising your frequency. So yeah, that's all I've got to share on the subject today. Anyone else? Anything else before we finish?
I just think that, you know, just based on what we shared, I think if, you know, if people, you know, take it in and just not look for when ascension's going to happen, because it totally is within us. It's nothing external. And, but the external will respond to what's happening in the internal of us, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And everyone's on their own trajectory and in their own frequency. So not pushing other people, just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, thanks for joining me today. Another great episode, and we will see you all again in another week's time. Thanks for joining us on Talking Timelines. See you soon, guys. Bye for now.
Bye,
That was
everyone.
fun. Thanks.
Disclaimer: the content in this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The views, opinions, and information shared do not necessarily represent those of the hosts, but is provided for additional perspectives. None of the hosts are medical professionals, so we do not dispense medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any health-related issues. And thank you for listening to Talking Timelines.